Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Carrie Hessler-Radelet, President and CEO of Project Concern International, and Sarah Degnan Kambou, President of the International Center for Research on Women.
We've only got 10 minutes. Let's get right to it.
All right.
Discriminating against women is bad economics. Research shows that investing in gender equality serves all of us well. Women, in their multiple roles across the global value chain, have just enormous potential to move economies forward. And when we say women mean business in the global economy, your mind may be racing through images. Women in corporate boardrooms, women in tech, women in healthcare. Today, we're going to focus on a large segment of the global economy that hasn't yet been fully leveraged. Women in the informal sector. I'm Sarah Kambou, President and CEO of the International Center for Research on Women.
And I'm Carrie Hessler-Radelet, President and CEO of Project Concern International, PCI.
And today we're going to talk about the enormous potential of women finding their voices, overcoming obstacles, and leveraging modest investments in order to create economic gains for their families and communities.
The impact of women's economic participation is significant. In the United States alone, women-owned enterprises are responsible for contributing a staggering $3 trillion to our economy and building jobs for 23 million people. In emerging markets, women own or run a full third of all small and medium-sized enterprises. And they also, like their American counterparts, contribute to many, many jobs. At PCI, my organization, we work with 1 million women around the world in small villages in the most remote corners of this globe. Women like Rena, who, through participation in a rural livelihoods program, has become a very successful entrepreneur and change agent in her community. She is now the deputy mayor of her village and an incredible role model to girls and women to demonstrate that they too can find their voice, break down barriers, and lift their families out of poverty.
Investing in gender equality is smart business strategy, and too often women are relegated to the periphery of economies, working as street vendors or seasonal farm workers with few social or physical protection, like sick leave or safe workplaces. So if we're going to be helping women do better, then we really need to think about the number of women who are in the informal market. And that's 95% of women in South Asia, followed by 89% in Africa and 59% in Latin America.
Yeah, it's incredible, the participation of women in their communities. I want to tell you about women in the, Richard.
Are we going to Malawi?
Malawi first. Yes, I know what I was going to say. Sorry. It is astounding to me and really amazing how women bring incredible creativity to the work of their businesses. And even more than that, how they contribute to their families. For example, we know that when women earn $1, 90 cents of that dollar goes back to their families, whereas for men, only 35 cents goes back to their families. I saw this in action in Malawi, where I met Sarah, who you see right here. She and 20 other women are part of a women's savings group that is called Women Empowered, which is a basic village savings and loan program. The women contribute a very modest amount of money each week into a common account, and then that common account is lent out to women for their own small businesses. Now, Sarah lives in a very remote part of Malawi, which is very dry, and rainfall is erratic. And so the women really long to have something that would enable them to water their plants. and bring higher yields. And so they pooled their resources and purchased and installed a very simple pump mechanism that allows them to harvest 3 crops of vegetables and maize instead of the usual 1. This means that they have plenty of food for their families, a much more diverse diet, and they have extra to sell in the marketplace. This generates additional income for their families and also ensures that their neighbors have more diversity in their diets. With the money that Sarah has earned, she has paid for her daughter's school fees, she has built a house out of brick and tin, and she has bought 3 goats. This small shared investment has had a huge difference in Sarah's family. When you unleash the potential of women, the sky's the limit. With the support of the Vodafone Foundation, PCI was able to partner with DreamStart Labs to develop an app that allows our women-empowered groups to be able to track their finances, to be able to connect with their accounts, but even more importantly, it has provided a verifiable credit history for these women who were previously unbanked. So now they can prove to their banks that they are creditworthy. It has made a huge difference in their life. We have piloted this app in Tanzania and are soon to roll it out in Malawi, where women like Sarah will benefit.
So when we invest in women, women invest in their homes and communities. They raise living standards, they create economic opportunities for themselves and others, and they grow and strengthen communities. But there are barriers that work against women's participation in the economy. And I'd like to talk for just a few moments about the care economy, which in plain English is provisioning the household and providing care in the home. Let's go to El Salvador. I'd like to introduce you to Juana. Juana is a mother of 3 very young children. She's living in a small fishing village on the Gulf of Fonseca. One day, Juana wakes up to realize that her husband has left, taking the outboard motor, but leaving her with the boat and the nets. Neighbors come round to commiserate, and they say, "It's not so bad. You've got the boat, you've got the nets, now all you need is a man with a motor." Juana's having none of it. She's going to buck social convention. She decides that she's going to fish just as the men do. So she starts out very close to shore in the estuary, often taking the children with her because they're just too small to leave at home. The fish are small, her catch is meager, and she's just not earning enough income. With time and determination, she becomes quite adept at fishing, and more importantly, she convinces the fishermen to tow her boat into deeper waters where there's a larger catch. Now, fishing is a dangerous profession, and when the seas are rough, a boat can capsize. This has happened several times, once with the children in it. Juana and her little family survive this ordeal, and with time, she's able to save enough money to buy a secondhand outboard motor, to hire someone to fish for her, and to buy a drying rack so that she can sell dried and fresh fish on the market. Out of adversity, Juana has discovered a coping strategy that is right for her in her community. She's really entrepreneurial. If we want to be sure that women are included in the economy, we must address the burden of unpaid care work, and we must find solutions to reduce and redistribute that work. This is the work that women do every day in their homes: cooking, cleaning, caring for the children, fetching water and fuel. In developing countries, every day, women spend 3 more hours than men on doing unpaid care work. If we can resolve this issue, they will have more time to earn an income or to learn a new skill in order to improve the family's situation. If we don't invest in resolving the unpaid care burden, then we are leaving money on the table.
Gender discrimination is bad economics. It's bad in the global marketplace, it's bad in the local marketplace. When women are able to contribute in the economy, everyone benefits. Families benefit, communities benefit, nations benefit, and all of us benefit. Whether it means working in the formal sector, such as factories or selling services, or in the informal sector, like Juana and Sarah. Higher household incomes means more money for community priorities and greater contributions to national revenues. It also means that governments then have more money to invest in their people's health and welfare. So it is a virtuous circle. So what do we do to ensure that women can economically participate in the economy? First of all, as we just heard from Sarah, we want to make sure that we are investing in reducing the burden of unpaid care labor. So, for example, in Denmark, which we're going to hear more about in a few moments, we know that 74% of all women participate in the workforce. But virtually all children under the age of 3 have access to subsidized, high-quality child care. They also have supporting policy environments, such as they have policies that promote parental leave. They also have policies that ensure a father's right to care. These good policies are shifting gender roles and responsibilities and making it possible for women to work more effectively around the world. It makes a huge difference in women's ability to do that. So I'd like to ask all of you to join with us in supporting women in their investment to work. However, first, the second thing we have to recognize is that women also need to have access to financial services. So this means very basic services such as access to credit, access to saving, and access to bank accounts. When women have these services available, they are able to gain confidence, they have a greater voice in household decision making, and they also can become more autonomous individuals. Women can make a big difference in the global economy. I'd like to ask all of you to join us in this endeavor. Please, let's make sure that women mean business. Let's make sure that their businesses thrive, because we all benefit from a more prosperous world.
And that's our flashpoint. So now Carrie and I have the distinct honor of introducing our next speaker, a global advocate on women's empowerment, gender equality, and social inclusion, a leading voice in Denmark on maternal health and youth development, Her Royal Highness Crown Princess Mary.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's a great pleasure for me to join you all here this afternoon at the Concordia Summit. And my thanks to the Concordia co-founders, board of directors, leadership council, organizers, and staff, as well as to my colleagues at the International Center for Research on Women, Sarah Kambou, and Project Concern International, Carrie Hessler-Radelet, who you just had the pleasure of listening to with some real life examples. So as everyone just rightly heard, discriminating against women is simply bad economics. Instead, investing in women, supporting their agency, and breaking down the barriers that hold women back is essential to a prosperous, modern economy that achieves sustainable, inclusive growth. The gathering of such a distinguished group of leaders from so many different backgrounds, sectors, and geographies is highly illustrative of how broad the effort we undertake must be in order to foster women's economic advancement. We know we are more successful when we work together, collaboratively, and in partnerships. In my country, Denmark, we have an exceptionally large commitment to promoting policies and programs that serve to eliminate gender disparities and empower women. We are a long-time champion for gender equality globally and are fully committed to working in partnership with a wide range of actors to challenge injustices and inequalities. Only through collaborative, cross-sectoral and untraditional partnerships, and by implementing a whole-of-society approach, can we overcome remaining obstacles and fully advance gender equality. Even in a country like mine, with structural, societal, and legal frameworks to support the full and equal participation of women in society at all levels, challenges still remain. And some of those challenges are in the form of social norms and unconscious biases. For example, social norms in many ways influences women's economic opportunities. They frame a woman's choice of education and career, and they reflect and strengthen discriminating stereotypes, which can affect, for example, equal pay and promotion. We need to become conscious of our unconscious biases and more knowledgeable about the effect they have on our decision-making. I say this frequently, yet I find that I cannot say it enough, that achieving gender equality and building equal opportunities for all are some of the most important things we can do to improve the world. Equity and opportunity are both essential for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. They are essential for poverty reduction and economic development, and essential for ensuring that men and women can contribute fully at home, at work, and in the public life to the benefit of our societies and economies at large. The enormous potential of women as catalysts of economic growth, whether in the formal or informal sectors, is a business case that is well proven. We know what can happen when you unleash the power of women, and yet we know from data that we gather and from the stories we hear from across the globe that challenges persist and there is much more still to be done. We continue to struggle to fully remove the barriers preventing the power held by women and girls into translating into social and economic gains. Women often not only lack access to economic resources, but they are excluded from entrepreneurial opportunities and are unable to exercise their own agency. To facilitate women doing business in the global economy, they must have equal opportunity for education, training, and healthcare. They must be able to access financial services and exert control over their assets and property. Inequitable norms and discriminating stereotypes must be shifted. The care of burden must be lifted, and violence must not be tolerated. It is important to think about how we lift this task. It must be together. Inequality is not a woman's issue. It is an issue for humankind. We cannot expect to lift the burden of care or break the cycle of violence without the participation and engagement of women and men. We are individuals with different dreams, talents, and ambitions, and then should be room for those individual dreams and ambitions to be lived out without stereotypical judgment. Development and equality are about the freedom to choose, but also about having respect for choices made. The factors that support women's transition from informal to formal work, that enable women entrepreneurs to grow their business and to contribute to robust and inclusive growth in their communities and nations, must be fostered. In short, we need to eliminate structural, societal, and legal obstacles that hinder women's full participation in the global economy. And we must be aware of the role that culture and tradition play in our decision-making and policy-making. To do so, we must continue to pursue the best practices that we know work, like those outlined by ICRW and PCI, and invest in new research to uncover fresh pathways and new approaches. It is critical that we prioritize data, allowing it to inform our decision-making and shape our strategies. Most importantly, we must all be bold and dedicated to taking action together to fulfill the potential of every girl, boy, woman, and man. I hope the data and evidence you have heard this afternoon solidified for you the case for women's economic development. I hope the stories illuminated for you the faces behind the evidence and connected you with the humanity behind the challenge. I know that if we continue to work together, if we continue to build upon the great progress that has already been made, we can make a real and lasting impact. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.